Hujo, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network, and you are watching Star Nations Communications from Home. That's the name of this show. I'm your host for this evening. There it is, just so you know what you're watching, right? Star Nations Communications from Home. And welcome to the show. It is Tuesday night, December 6th. December, oh my gosh, went back in time. February. If it was December 6th, it would be my birthday. Maybe that's what that was about. February 6th, 2018. How many people have written the wrong date on stuff? I have today, twice. Once at the post office and once with our legal counsel. And it's like, oh, darn. It's not 2017, it's 2018. So welcome to the show. I have a really fun guest on tonight with me. And I can't wait for you guys to meet him. Many of you already know him. And we're going to be talking about the magazine, Star Nations Magazine, tonight. And welcoming back into Star Nations my guest. And let me see. I just need to do a couple of things before we bring him on. Before I forget, because, once we start rolling, I tend to forget to ask you guys to do a couple of things. Right? So there's a couple things I'd like you to do, if you wouldn't mind. One is if you're watching and you'd like me to know you're here, or my guest to know that you're here with us, just go in the chat and comment and say hi or something, because that way I can tell who you're here. That would be helpful for us anyway. That's nice. And if you wouldn't mind sharing and liking the broadcast, and I'll tell you why. And it's kind of important because, one, our friends, they get busy. They're going to come and watch the show, and they get busy and they kind of forget. And so when they get their notification, they say, oh, yeah, that was right. I wanted to watch that show. So that's being helpful to them. And the other thing is that when we like and share the video shows or the live stream shows or the recorded shows, it's easier for other people to find us. Yeah. And so if you like the contents of the shows on Star Nations Radio Network, we're always asking you to share. And we really would appreciate it if you did. Yeah. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm on my phone, and I am going to like and share the show. And what I do is I share it to our community in the closed group. Because they're over there with us, the radio and magazine closed group. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to send it to them. And it just takes a second, just asking them to join me. I'm live streaming. And then join me. And then we'll post it. See, it doesn't take that long. A lot of times I used to do it just to my timeline, because I post so many things publicly that would be helpful. But I realized that I really do need to post it to our community, to the closed group. So thanks for doing that. And we got a couple people in the house we're going to say hello to right away. We have Cindy Lynn's in the house. She's saying hi to Eddie, and Eddie is our guest. And there's Robin. Hi, Robin. Thank you for joining us. And Cindy's saying, yep, I just got that notification. Yay. See how it works? It does work. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Here we go. There. All right. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my guest, okay, before we bring him on. Like I said, some of you guys already know him, and a lot of you people might not. So my guest was raised in the countryside of America, surrounded by miles of wilderness and woodlands. His knowing that everything is alive and able to communicate started from the very beginning of his arrival here on Earth. Born as one of those knowing souls, Eddie is a seeker of deeper, infinite wisdom and spiritual presence. He found comfort within the presence, consciousness, and awareness of nature and the spirit world. And even more than with other humans. Now, Eddie is a spiritual teacher. He's a story weaver, and a healing guide of deep, infinite, and spiritual presence. He's a shamanic healing and wisdom with peace through stillness, grace, and love. He embodies a spiritual foundation of living from the origin of love, nature wisdom, soul enlightenment, and the infinite source of consciousness. And I'd like you to welcome Eddie to the show. We're going to bring Eddie on here. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
Hello. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. I can't tell you how happy I am that you're back with Star Nations.
Yeah, timing worked perfect, and just time.
Yeah. And we always we talk about being in the flow, right? In the flow of things.
Yeah.
And so you had a part of your journey, your path that you had to take to go do what you went to go do. And then when our paths crossed again, and it was like, you're writing even more. How would you like to continue to write for us? And so when you said yes, it was happy dance. And so what I'd like to do is let everybody know that Eddie is back with Star Nations magazine. He is a contributing writer on a monthly basis, and he has a new column called WisdomKeeper's Path. And Eddie, I can't tell you how many people have told me that name of your column is like, wow, that's a really cool name.
Well, that's good to hear for sure.
Yeah. And so, what I like to do on this show, Eddie, is to have people get to know you as not just as a writer, but as a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and all of that. So, could you tell us a little bit about where you live, because a lot of people don't know this part, where you live, and how did you come to create that name, WisdomKeeper's Path? Yeah. It's a cool name. So if you could just tell us a little bit about where you live, because we were just talking just before the show started, and I think some people would really be interested to know where you're at in the world physically.
Yeah, well, I'm in Southern California in San Diego. So that word path and WisdomKeeper's Path has always been important to me, because all of us, our journey is all about the path, the spiritual path. And it feels like I've been on that because I lived in Minneapolis for a while, for 11 years. And then it was time to do my spiritual work. So I ventured to Sedona, Arizona for just 2.5 months, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Kind of get my schooling, so to speak, and my frequency adjusted. So I felt like that was a huge path. And then I went to Phoenix, Arizona for 2.5 years. Ended up in the last part of that stay, being in the mountains. That's where things started to evolve, if you will, to the next level. And then I ended up in San Diego. So my work has really just evolved. When I was here before, I was primarily doing, before I came to the magazine the first time, I was primarily doing angel work.
Yeah.
And to angel / shamanic alignment. And so then that's where things kind of exploded.
Wow.
To go a lot deeper, as we all do. We go on this really deep pathway and just really deep into the heart. And so being near the ocean really helped me, because I didn't grow up. I grew up in Wisconsin. And so I didn't grow up with an ocean. I grew up, deep nature. So that whole frequency aspect of the ocean affected me more than I thought it would, in a good way. Yeah. It helped me to really, really expand and bring in a full level of shamanism and really going deeper into the nature way. And brought in a lot of my work. So evolved through that spirit world, spiritual connection. The earth connection really started to open up. Even though I had that as a child, it was just, it had gotten much deeper. So that frequency of the ocean just kind of opened up the essence of the earth. So.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about shamanism, it really is earth-based, right? And when part of the promotion for the show tonight, I had placed a question to people to read, and it was if they realize that they are on a spiritual path, not just a physical life, but also a spiritual path. And do they ever wonder, am I on the right path? Am I in the right place?
Yeah.
And I had shared with them that your story is very similar to their story. And hearing your story and how you evolved through being raised in northern Wisconsin, which is a lot of trees, and you're in nature, you know,
right.
You walk out your door and there it is. And coming a full circle back around to your connection to nature in that way as you were as a child. And so your path, that's the reason why I love the name of your column, the Wisdom Keeper's Path, because you're right. You know, we walk this path and we're searching for are we in the right place? And every time we do an adjustment, like you did, you adjusted and you adjusted, and now here you are in a full circle.
Yes.
And that's where the wisdom comes in, I think, don't you?
Yeah, because that it was a huge adjustment from living in the Midwest, Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then desert. That was a huge adjustment. My body just kind of exploded when I moved to Arizona. It was huge. So that time of solitude, which is a lot of what the desert is about, huge for me. It helped me to go deeper because my journey is, obviously in the column we'll be talking a lot about it, but it's the essence of my journey is about 13 to 21 years old. I started to forget a lot of the experiences that were happening to me. And so then when I hit about, 28, somewhere in there, it was the reawakening action. So it's almost even though I didn't take it for granted what happened to me as a child, it was like really going deeper inside of those experiences.
Yeah.
To see what the essence of that was for my destiny or my next level of my pathway.
Yeah, what you came here to do, right?
Yeah.
You came here to do. Because I think that the similarities of our journeys, our pathways, I think is that for those of us who remember being connected to spirit as a child and when that happened and how that happened, we tend to sometimes kind of put it to the side. It's not like we can ever truly forget it. But we set it to the side because then we go through that earth maturation of how do I fit in? Do I want to fit in? You try to make yourself fit in. And, I'm talking about my 80s, 1980s. And you go through that and you really don't feel comfortable with it. It's like out there, you're one person. And when you get home, you're a different person. You're the real you when you get home, right?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about that, Eddie, that I can, so many of us have been through something very similar to that. And there's many people who are going through it right now. Yeah. They're a little bit older. They're in their late 20s, maybe mid 20s. And they're saying, I know that there's more to life than this. And so now they're consciously making those spiritual decisions in their lives. And I just be able to have someone like you writing for the magazine and sharing that, I think it's going to touch a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. It's being able to, I think too, you don't really ever feel like you fit in, but you start to infuse in who you really are.
Right.
So there's a depth of that connection. Going in 20s was all about anger and trying to fit in and still having some of that spiritual connection but trying to figure out where do I function and where do I fit in, and then realize, who cares? I'll just be crazy me. That's what it is.
And you know what? I didn't realize how much I missed you until we sat down and we talked that first time when, we reconnected, and I had forgotten the kind of conversations we'd have and how much we'd laugh. And so having you back is also very, very fun.
Thank you.
Very fun. Cindy Lynn has something to say. She says, that's how I first met Eddie, was with the angel work on Soul's Journey long time ago.
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, I always remember the first show that I did there because it was a Mercury retrograde, and everything that went wrong couldn't go wrong that first night. And that was my first show with the spiritual radio station. I had done radio before that, but but everything that could go wrong that night did. I remember that very well.
Well, I mean, that is a part of our learning, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Because that's the same radio station, internet radio station I started with too, and I had done radio before that, but not internet radio. That was the first time for me too, and I don't know. It was all a learning experience, which brings us to the present day, where here we are, live streaming on Facebook, using our partners at Be Live TV to be able to do this kind of interview.
Right.
We had searched for a couple of years just to be able to provide something like this that wasn't so expensive, right? And so this got dropped in my lap. It's going to be a year ago in March, and
oh, wow.
Yeah. We got Sonia with us tonight. Hi, Sonia. Thank you for joining us. Always nice to see you in the chat room. So here I want to show. I'm going to bring some pictures in. I wanted to show the promotion that was designed for you. I kind of like it. That's why I want to show it. All right, we're going to kind of give it solo, so it's got a big screen. And so for those people who haven't seen the promotion yet, this is what we're doing to let everybody know that Ed is back with Star Nations magazine and with Wisdom Keeper's Path. I like that. That's a good picture of you too.
Thank you.
We're gonna keep that up there. Let's see. I'm gonna see which one is gonna be the better one to do here. We got different. Thinking maybe that might be the one. Yeah, let's do that one. We'll keep your magazine promotion up there for a little bit. So, all right. So here we are talking about the Wisdom Keeper's Path, and I want to let everybody know that the introduction that I did for Eddie at the beginning of the show really comes right out of the magazine, out of his bio, and and Eddie, would you mind sharing the one story that literally changed your life about hearing that voice telling you to change the lane?
I was on it's very life-changing. It seems like a lot of my experiences early on where I would be in a car driving, and I'd be kind of a hostile driver. At a particular time, I was coming back from when I worked in the fitness industry, I was back home after teaching a class.
Yeah.
And kind of in my zone, and it was I forgot what time of year that was, but it was close to the time when it would start snowing, and it was snowing just a little bit. And I was coming back into the city, into Minneapolis, and again, I was just in my zone, but I heard this really sound frequency come in and told me to change lanes. Because I was kind of in my own little zone, as I said, and so I just changed lanes, and as I changed lanes and moved forward, there I noticed something white up ahead, and a semi-truck trailer had turned over in the lane I was driving in.
Right.
so that, and I didn't really even understood what happened at that point in time. I just kind of, drove up, pulled over, called 911 too, like a million other people had done. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I had really been saved. And I listened. And so that was probably a pivotal point in my journey. The fact, number one, that I had listened, that I had been saved.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to figure out what to do with that and explore, like a lot of people do when they have something like that happened, is why was I saved in a world that's kind of crazy?
Right.
So a very deep point for me. So then I just started, that's when everything started to get deep and, as we say, return, or there was the essence of awakening was coming in more. So there was a lot of deep healing from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it put me into this space where I realized, oh, this, again, going through this as when you have that as a child, but then there's always that moment when, oh, this is real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is real. It's another level of realness or reality.
Right.
That we are being looked out for.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot of the emotions, a lot of the inner healing, and it was kind of just the start of another level of, oh, I need to figure out what this is. And so that was my level of surrender. That's where my surrender piece comes.
Yeah, big
kind
thing.
of a short version, but that's what happened.
But an important story, I think, really, for people who might not know you, to know that there was an undeniable experience that changed your life.
Yeah.
And even at that time, you were awake. You were spiritually awake.
Yes.
And yet, Spirit, the Creator, wanted you to go deeper, and so gave you that experience. And
that same voice when I was 7 years old told me while I was journaling, help people help themselves. And then a second voice said, you will help people help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that voice. So it wasn't like that shock even at that, but it was that same voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that even adds more to it, because it was, it came from a being that you were aware of already.
Right.
You trusted that being, and so for them to tell you change lanes now, kind of thing, you were going to listen to that. If you would have heard a new voice come in, you probably would have paid attention to it, but I don't know if you would have taken it as seriously.
Right. Yeah. So that literally changed lanes had a lot of meaning to it.
Yeah.
Like that multi-dimensional message and vision.
Mm-hmm.
Literally change lanes in your life now. Because my life was kind of a mess then.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to fit into this experience? So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that we all go through aspects of that. And I'm just coming out of one, it's like 2017 and part of 2016 was not very pleasant. And, but what I've learned from it, and talk about life-changing, right? And when you have those kind of pivotal moments that you're sharing, those are parts of our story that we tell often.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. I have a reason for that. And I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Would you like to share that with us? Your reason?
Well, I feel like when you share your experiences and when you share your story, because it's interesting, because someone.
Uh-oh. He was going to share something. And Eddie, you froze. I don't know if you can still hear me. And it's not even Mercury retrograde. Cindy Lynn, if you could make a comment, or Sonia in the chat room, to let me know if you guys can still hear me. We might have lost Eddie there for a second. Hopefully he'll be back. So I would appreciate that if you'd put a comment in and let me know if Cindy Lynn, if you can still hear me, okay? That'll be helpful. Because I could refresh my screen if you can't hear me. Okay, now I'm going to send Eddie a message. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to send Eddie a message, and I am going to ask him to refresh his screen. We lost him. There. And hopefully he'll get that. Yeah, I think he did. Because he's gone out of the studio. And usually what that means is that he realizes, and he'll come back in. All he has to do is click the link again, the guest link, and I'll tell him that. There we go. And he'll be back in a second. Here he is. And there he is. Well, my question was why do you suppose that why is it important for us to tell our stories? And I asked you to share your reason why you tell your story.
Okay, I was halfway through it before I realized our screen froze. So it's important that we share our stories. It doesn't matter what we're doing, because early on someone told me that they appreciated, from a class that I taught, they appreciated me sharing my story.
Showing them too, yeah.
Because it helped them to connect to their own story and their own experience, or to realize how much all of us we're interconnected.
Right.
Even though that story is going to be a little different, mine's going to be different from yours, and that it helps us to go deeper inside of our own experiences and to know that we're really not, we're on a path.
Right. And that is the reason we share our stories. And I don't know if our audiences recognize how often the spiritual teachers and almost every single one of us on Star Nation's radio network and in the magazine, we've been a teacher of some sort for years. And we end up sharing our stories quite often. And for the very same reason, what you had mentioned, Eddie, is that our students find comfort in knowing that I wasn't completely off base. There's somebody who had something similar happen.
Right.
Yeah. So it's some confirmation for them, or some at least making them feel a little bit more comfortable in maybe the path that they're going on.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to check the time. Because I told you, it goes by so fast. It's like in a blink of an eye. All right. So, Eddie, what kind of classes are you teaching now?
Well, I'm primarily teaching in this phase right now, teaching a lot of shamanic courses, and more so the alignment of the nature way. So I have right now I'm teaching a Christ light frequency course. So that's the one I'm doing right now. And then I'm going to be teaching some more heart-based courses, so the Earth Grid through the heart. So it's going to be more of the Sacred Mother energy, the Hawk Medicine energy, which is the next course I'm going to be teaching. So I'll be teaching a few more courses on bird medicine too. So.
And how many of those classes are online, and how many are in person?
Right now, all of them are online. So
good. That's good to know.
Then I'm starting to shift more into doing in-person courses and retreats. So I'll have probably a sneak peek retreat coming here in just a little bit. That'll be doing in Wyoming. So we're still planning it yet. But I'll be probably introducing that coming up soon too.
Okay, good. Well, then what I did is I just put your website address in comments.
Okay.
And Eddie can be reached at eddiemullins.com. And I'm sure that if anybody's interested in your classes, they could go there to find how they register and that kind of thing. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Cindy Lynn writes the best stuff. Here, she's saying, very safe and loving place for me and others I invited to join to learn, to explore, and grow.
Oh, that's
thank you. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so look for Eddie's very first article in Star Nations magazine this month in February. And I do have a sneak peek for you guys. Sneak peek. There's the cover. We're going to give it a solo. Yeah, there she is. The cover is more about the lunar calendar and Chinese New Year. And so we have this really beautiful lady on the cover. And Eddie also has his title for his article on the cover as well. And the space, let's see, Mystery of the Space Between Everywhere. So the space between the space, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a place of magic, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere. So
everywhere. It's right here, right now.
Yes.
Well, with that, Eddie, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to be here with us. And I'm just so glad that you're back with Star Nations. I hope we have some fun while you're here, and we have a nice long relationship.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yay. And audience, you'll see Eddie back again as a guest here and probably on a few other shows once the other hosts figure out he's got some stuff to say and stuff to share. And so you'll see Eddie again, I'm sure. Eddie, if you wouldn't mind hanging around in the green room while I finish up, and we can wrap up a couple of things between us, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, wasn't that fun? Eddie Mullins. And it's true. The first time I met Eddie we were both on Soul's Journey Radio way back in the day. And now it's kind of fun to be here in 2018 and how much everything has evolved and changed and so much good stuff happening, right? So I am in the midst of finishing up February issue for Star Nations magazine. We're in what's called the optimization phase. And that means that all those cool links that you get to click on in the digital, those are all getting hyperlinked, and all the videos are getting hyperlinked. And so we're right in the middle of that. And so we publish on February 10th. And so I'll be back once we have published and share a little bit more about that issue with you, and give you another look at the highlighted articles the titles end up on the cover. Okay, so with that, I appreciate you guys being here with me on Star Nations Communications from Home on Star Nations Radio Network with our partners at Be Live TV. They're fun people too. If you ever catch some of their shows from Be Live, those are pretty good shows too. Yeah. So anyway, have a good evening, and we'll see you here next week where my guest is Nicole Fix, February 13th. Nicole is also one of our contributing writers for Star Nations magazine. She is also a therapist, and we're going to be talking about a little Valentine's kind of stuff. Love, the emotion of love, the spirituality of love. And so join Nicole and I next week, because it's all going to be about love. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you next week.